Wednesday. First, I just want to say thank you to all of you who've been working hard on all of your work, who have been watching the other YouTube video, or even doing work on iReady or Zern. I see that you're working hard and I love it. I know that we are having to adjust to learning online, and I just appreciate all the things that you guys are doing. I think you're amazing, and I just miss you guys so much. I cannot wait for us to be back in the classroom together. But for us to get started today, I do need everybody to get a piece of paper or a notebook, and you are going to need a pen, pencil, marker, something to draw or write with. You can see that today our lesson is on lesson 18, and our objective is to compare fractions and whole numbers on the number line by reasoning about their distance from 0. So we're just going to be comparing some fractions using a number line. To get us started, I do want us to be looking at these number bonds, and this is something that we actually did several weeks ago. When we get started, I'm going to tell you guys are going to get it super fast. It says it should only take us about 45 seconds, but you guys can do it, or about 4 minutes. You guys can do this probably super fast. So what I want you guys to do is to draw each of these number lines, or number bonds, in your notebooks. And we are going to break apart one whole for halves, thirds, fourths, and fifths. So I'm going to do a halves for us. And you can see for each of these number bonds, there's only 2 parts. So I have to get my pen. I'm going to use blue today. And so halves means there's 2 equal parts. And remember, one whole for a half would show us that it would be 2 over 2. So that means if we broke it apart into 2 equal parts, one part would be 1/2. Another part would be 1/2. And you can see my 2 looks like a Z. I try my best. Now, if we were to use thirds, remember one whole for thirds would be 3 over 3. And if I broke that apart into 2 parts, one of them would be 1/3. And then to make it 3/3, I would then need to have 2/3. 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3, or 1 whole. Okay, for fourths, we have 4 over 4. 4/4 equals 1 whole. If I have 1/4, what do I need to add to 1/4 to get 4/4? I need 3/4. And I know that you guys got that. So same thing with fifths. 1 whole, we're talking about fifths, means 5 fifths. If I have 1/5, okay, what do I need to add to 1/5 to get 5 fifths? I need 4 fifths to make it a whole. Okay? Just double check your work. I know you guys can do this. You're brilliant. Okay, this is another thing we're just going to briefly look at. This is not part of our main lesson, but it is just about placing fractions on the number line. This is something that we did in our previous lesson, and it says to draw my number line in your personal notebook. Now, you need to read these directions really carefully. It does say to estimate, to mark, and label 1/3 in the interval 0 to 1. So between 0, my whole number of 0, I'll box it, and between the numbers 0 and 1, the whole number 0 and 1, we are going to label 1/3, which means we are breaking it apart into thirds. So I'm going to partition this into thirds the best I can. and you can see my spacing is a little bit off. I'm actually going to go ahead and erase part of that because I do want to make sure we see it. And it might not, there we go. Okay, so I just erased all of my things. Let me try again. Okay, so remember we are labeling 1/3. Okay, and we are doing 0 and 1. Okay, so I'm going to try to partition this again. Okay, and now we need to label 1/3. So if we looked at this, this would be 0/3. And this one is going to be 1/3. So we know that that is where 1/3 is. Now it says to write 3/3 on your number line. Label the point as a fraction. So if we were to put, where would we put 3/3 on our number line? So we would go from 0/3 to 1/3. 2/3 would go right here, and number 1 would be 3/3. And then that they said to label a point as a fraction. So we know that that would be 3/3 right there. So you guys knew that 3/3 is going to be where the number 1 is. Now, if we were to keep going, we would have had to partition this entire huge number line, each of them into thirds between the whole numbers. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3 equal parts between 1 and 2, and then 3 equal parts between 2 and 3. I do want to challenge you guys to label your number lines and remember what the whole numbers might be. So if I were to go from 0/3, 1/3, 2/3, and there's 3/3, if we keep counting on, we're going to find out what the whole numbers of 2 and 3 are. So you have 3/3, 4/3, 5/3, and the number 2 is 6/3. This would be 7/3, 8/3, and then this is going to be 9/3 is the whole number of 3. Okay, that was just an additional thing I want you guys to be seeing how we label our number lines. If you notice the top number, the numerator, is actually skip counting by 3s. The bottom number doesn't change, but the top number, we're skip counting by 3s for whole numbers. So we're going 0, 3, 6, 9. So you can always think, what would number 4 be if I'm still skip counting? We are going to move on. So here's our application problem today. This one's a little tricky, but I know that we can do it. I'm going to read it out loud. What I do want everybody to write on their paper is the rice strategy. So on your paper, you're going to write down the word rice. Okay? And we always use that to help us go through this process together. Remember, we restate, illustrate, calculate, and explain. I'm going to get started and read the question out loud. Then I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about how you might restate the question. And then you may go ahead and start drawing your number line. It says, third grade students are growing peppers. The student with the longest pepper wins the Green Thumb Award. Jackson's pepper measured 3 inches long. Drew's measured 10/4 inches long. Who won the award? Draw a number line to help prove your answer. So one way that we could restate our question, so here's our question. Okay, think about how you would restate that question. I might restate it by saying blank won the award. Now I'm using my computer to do this, so you can see it takes me a little bit longer to write that out. So you might say blank won the award. We're going to use that as a way to then answer the rest of our problem. Now it does give you a hint of how we're going to illustrate, and that is to draw a number line. So you can see that we're going to draw our number line, and you can start it from 0 if you'd like. You can, but it does need to go all the way up to 3 inches, because look, if you look at it, it says Jackson's pepper measured 3 inches long. They also give you another hint by showing you what you're breaking it apart into. You're breaking it into fourths. So 3 is a whole number, and they're also breaking it up into fourths. So before, I'm going to show you my number line on the next slide, but before I show you that, I do want to just give you guys a clue. Okay? You can start your number line at either 0 or 1. And we want to put, I'm going to start mine at 1. So here's 1, 2, 3, and I even might go to 4, just in case. What if Drew's is bigger than 3? We don't know, right? Then you would split each of these into fourths. So just to give you guys a hint. Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide where I'm going to show you my completed number line. So you can see I drew my number line, and I actually started at 0. I did stop at 3 on my example here, and I can show you that it went from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. We're going to read the question again just to make sure we're all understanding the same thing. It says, third grade students are growing peppers. The student with the longest pepper wins the Green Thumb Award. Jackson's pepper measured 3 inches long. So this is Jackson, okay? Drew's measured 10/4 inches long. We need to figure out where he goes on our number line. You can see that we broke it apart into fourths. Now, I did not partition each of these lines in between because I just didn't take the time to do that, but I will do it right now so I can show you that this would be 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and that we know that's 4/4. We know that 10/4 is bigger than that. Then we would go 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4. So it's not a whole number of 2 inches. How much is Drew's? Then we go from 8/4 to 9/4. So this would be 9/4. And then we can see, close my 9 a little bit. We can see that 10/4, I'm going to box his, 10/4 is where Drew's was, okay? That's how much his pepper was. This is Drew's pepper is this long. And then Jackson's pepper is 3 full inches long, or 12/4 of an inch, or 12/4 inches. So who won the award? Jackson won the award because 3 inches, this kind of gives you a hint of how we would explain our answer, because 3 inches is greater than 10/4 inches. Okay, we plotted them on the number line to see that 3, the whole number of 3, was bigger or more than 10/4. We are going to be looking at this phrase, greater than, along with less than and equal to during our lesson today. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to look through this problem again. Write down your responses, explain your thinking. Okay, we're going to move on. Now, our concept development, or meat and potatoes of our lesson today, is comparing. We are comparing, and we're looking at how far away fractions are away from 0, and what does that tell us about that fraction. So we are going to draw a number line that shows the endpoints of 0 to 1, and then we're going to label the number line into fourths. So go ahead and draw your number line. Okay, and I'm going to do it right along with you guys. I do not have a pre-made one because I do want you guys to see exactly how I do it. So I'm going to start with 0, and my endpoint is 1. And then we're breaking it into fourths. So I have my halfway point, and now I have 4 equal parts. I'm going to switch colors so nobody gets confused. Let's use green. We're going to put this as a fraction. This would be 0/4, excuse me. This would be 1/4. And this would be 2/4. And this would be 3/4. And this would be 4/4. Excuse me. Let me get some water. Okay, so we have 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. Which fraction is the closest fraction to 0? What fraction is the closest fraction to 0? And it's not 0/4 because 0/4 is 0. So which one is the closest one to 0? If you said that 1/4 is the closest one, you are correct. What fraction is the farthest fraction from 0? If you said that 4/4 is the farthest fraction from 0, you are correct. What is the difference between these two fractions? What they want you guys to see is that 1/4 is much smaller. It's a much smaller, tinier part than all of 4/4. So if we were to compare these two fractions, if I had 1/4 and 4/4, what it's asking, we're going to be talking about today, is comparing them. And I want you guys to see that 1/4 is smaller than 4/4. And we write that as that sign. We use that sign. We read it from left to right. I'm going to have a note about that in the next slide. So we read our numbers going from left to right, and you go, okay, 1/4 is less than 4/4. Think about how our greater than is going to be eating. The greater number is getting eaten by our alligator mouth. Okay. Okay, so let's think about, we're going to go and think about back to how we compare numbers. I'm going to stop and have us look through this slide before we move on the rest of our lesson, because I think it is important for you all to remember and take note of what these symbols look like. I did note right here, it says, remember when we compare two numbers, we read the numbers from left to right, like a book. So if we were to say a number is greater than, okay, our sign is going to go this way, okay? Our sign will be eating a bigger number. And I'm going to use an example. So if we just used whole numbers, we can say that 10, right, is greater than 3. Okay, that's a good example. We can think that the 10 is going to get eaten, right? So 10 is greater than, notice I started with 10. I didn't say 3. So 10 is greater than 3. So then we can think when we use less than, our symbol goes the opposite direction. We'll use those same two numbers, and we can now say that 3 is less than 10. Once again, the bigger number is getting eaten. Okay, and then what's equal to is an equal sign, and so we can say 5 is equal to 5. Refer back to these symbols whenever we are comparing fractions. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, look at fractions, and we're going to compare them. Okay, it says we're going to practice. Let's draw a number line with endpoints 0 and 1, and then we're going to label the number line into 6. So you're going to draw your number line. Your endpoints are going to be 0 and 1. And we need to split it up into 6. So there needs to be 6 equal parts. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to label all of our fractions, and I'm going to use just a different color so we don't get confused. Okay, so this one is going to be 0, 6. The next one is 1, 6. The next one is 2, 6. Then we have 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6, and 6, 6. Okay, if you continue to read my little prompt on the bottom of our screen here, it says to compare. Is 4 6 greater than, less than, or equal to 1 6? So let's go ahead and look at where our fractions are. So we have 4 6 and we have 1 6. 1 6 is closer to 0, so it is smaller. There's only one of them. It's very small. Think of our little cubes. It's a lot smaller. There's only one part of our cube. But if we look at 4 6, it's farther away from 0. There's 4 cubes or 4 parts out of the 6. So which one would you say is bigger? 4 6 or 1 6? If you said that 4 6 is bigger, you are correct. And so on your paper, you could write 4 6 and figure out which sign goes in between 4 6 and 1 6. If you wrote down this sign where the alligator mouth was going towards the 4 6, you were correct. I would like for you to spend the next few minutes saying how you knew. How do you know? Explain your thinking. Okay. Now, we are just going to go through an exit ticket really quickly together because on Microsoft Teams, I am going to share the homework with you of what homework would be for lesson 18. I would like for you to try your best to complete that by the end of the week. And lesson 18 is exactly what we were just doing. You want to follow the directions, read each part of the directions, take your time, and really think about, is it greater than, less than, or equal to? So we're going to read this prompt. This is something you will see on your homework, and it says to place the two fractions on a number line. Circle the fraction with the distance closest to 0, then compare using greater than, less than, or equal to. So we can notice right away that the fractions are talking about fifths. Look at the bottom number. That should be the first thing you do. So when you say to yourself, okay, what am I breaking it apart into? Look at the bottom number, look at our denominator, and it is in fifths. So I'm going to break apart from 0 to 1. I'm going to put it into 5 equal parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I am going to label my fractions. So we have, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and 5/5. Now, it asked us to circle the fraction with the distance closest to 0. We had to only really place the 2 fractions on the number line. You can see that I put all the fractions on the number line. Our 2 fractions we're looking at are 1/5 and 3/5. So I'm going to circle the one that is closest to 0. And you're going to see that you should have circled 1/5. 1/5 is closest to 0. Now, we're looking at 1/5 compared to 3/5. Which one is bigger? Is it 1/5 or is it 3/5? Okay, I'm going to draw lines to compare them. Which one is bigger? Is it 1/5? And we'll use a different color for 3/5. Oh no, I just erased it all. Okay, well, we can think about 1/5 compared to 3/5. Let me just label my fractions really quick. I make mistakes all the time. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We knew that this was 1/5. Okay, we know that this is 3/5. Okay, so I wanted us to look at, is this one bigger or is this one bigger? If you said that 3/5 is bigger, you are correct. Now, on your homework, you are going to see that there are some word problems. Try your best to really think about it, label those number lines, and even if you get something wrong or you don't understand something, I will talk you guys through it, work as best as you can. I'm really proud of you guys. Continue practicing our fractions, continue comparing, and don't forget about our greater than, less than, and equal to signs. All right, so we're going to continue working through this today. Go ahead and you're going to be able to find our resource on Microsoft Teams. And I can't wait to talk to you guys soon. Oh, I'm still recording. So you guys can see that I am going to stop it now. Bye, guys.